extraordinaire, the gemologist.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the GMologist Presents. So today, what I have for you are responses to a couple call-ins, and I think that's going to inspire some updates on some recent games. So I have call-ins from EOTB, who runs the Classic Adventure Gaming podcast, and a call from Jason Connerly, who is the host of Nerds RPG Variety Cast. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about Pendragon, a little update on what I want to do with my Pendragon solo play. And I'm going to talk about not AD&D, sorry EOTB, but one of the games I did run at North Texas RPG Con. We had another session of the Drop In, Drop Out West Marches Down and Out in Fort Thunder. And we had a few players, some regulars of my players who joined in. And hopefully that can inspire other people to take a hack at this style of play on this island where there's a fort run by Amazons and they let adventurers do what adventurers do so far. So pretty cool stuff. It was a fun session and I will get to that. But first, the call from EOTB.
Hey Carl, it's EOTB. Just caught the couple of episodes that you did on North Texas and running the 1E adventure there. First off, I just want to say it was great to meet you guys at North Texas, you and Jason and BJ and some of the other guys. That was a lot of fun. Hopefully next year I'll try and arrange my schedule to where I've got some time to sit down and play some games with you guys, maybe have a couple of fingers of whiskey afterwards. But it was really entertaining listening to you recount the adventure sessions. I thought that it was great that everybody had a lot of fun. It sounds like you ran the rule set, the AD&D rule set, just like a vet, regardless of whether you had any apprehension going into it or not. So good show. Glad that you enjoyed your time and that you helped a couple of tables of people at North Texas enjoy their time. I mean, running games at a con is always, people are coming there to play great games ran by good DMs. So very, very cool of you to run that and also your other games. I mean, I heard you talking about the other games you ran, so it sounds like you just had a fantastic con all around. So thanks for telling us about it, and I will look forward to hearing more about the games that you run, especially with AD&D, given my preferences, over the next few months. Talk to you later.
Thank you so much, EOTB. It was really great to meet you. And yeah, we got to do some whiskey, play some games. I think I was going to try to convince Hobbs and friends to get that library area because that seems like a really cool hangout and place, although we kind of like being maybe a bit rebellious and having that corridor where we can hang out and we have a stew, malt worms, cooler of endless beer, and of course, like Hobbs said, seemed to spring whiskey bottles too. So it's a pretty fun stuff. And again, great to meet you. Great to put the handle to a face, and yeah, it'd be great to play in some games with you. I love hearing you on Nerds RPG Variety Cast and you on your podcast talk about AD&D. And in a way, you talking with Jason inspired me to try my hand at running AD&D again. So I like your rules assessments, and I got with Jason and was able to go over rules, the questions that I had, and it ran incredibly smoothly. The biggest thing, of course, is the segments and the rounds and the initiative, and that did kind of come up, but it never really affected the players because when they rolled a 6 on initiative, I rolled that lovely 1. So the spellcaster had no problem getting the spell off before the bad guys were to go. So yeah, it is a really neat experience, and I haven't jumped into AD&D. I'd wanted to do sort of AD&D as a break with my in between events and timeline forwarding in my Twilight 2000 campaign, but the players are like, I don't know. I'd rather do some more modern stuff. So I'll probably do something like I think Octoon Cthulhu is something I threw in, or a different place where we're gonna do Twilight 2000. But I know I made a character for my wife Amy, kind of using some rules from Unearthed Arcana as well. And I don't know if I want to do a solo or try to get a friend or my sister in law, her sister, to jump in and play just as a dual game. But we were able to play a continuation of the game that I ran at North Texas RPG Con. We ran Hyperborea, and I proposed this game as sort of West Marches style game, down and out in Fort Thunder, and I play tested a little bit with some first level characters. The idea is you are kind of rescued by Amazons, or you spend all your last bits of money to get to this place called Fort Thunder that's on this archipelago, and the Amazons are saying that they are establishing this as a trading port, a waypoint between where the Amazons are from and Chromarium, which is the big city in the verse. So, uh, so yeah, it was really fun at North Texas, and it was just kind of like very much an emergent style of play. I gave them rumors, I gave them jobs that the Amazons had provided, or missions that Amazons will pay you for, type of thing. There's like a job board, which is kind of funny. And then they went into the jungle, took a job, went into the jungle, and then just rolled randomly for encounters. And it was really fun to see how things played out. So that game informed the game that I ran this past Wednesday. So when another players had taken another job to do a similar thing, because that job is not finished, that mission has not been finished. So so this other group was out there, and then of course when they reach the caravel, they see like the remnants of the rope ladder, makeshift rope ladder that the other group had put. They see like dead bodies being munched on there because they kind of just missed them. It's been only been like a day, quote unquote, a day in the fiction, and then they go to the shipwreck and they see that the the prow area where the captain's quarters may have been has been already looted. They moved some stuff around in there, but then and then they actually fought. They kind of went further into the this boat and found a shiny in the former crew's quarters. A giant eel attacked them, and this group had actually previously made some friends with some lizard men that were on the island. I just, in that case, you roll for your 2d6 encounter roll, and it came up very positive for the player characters. So like in AD&D is a percentile dice thing, and I love the both that one and the one for Hyperborea BX style games, or games that incorporate that 2d6 reaction table. It really helps me as a GM to see if it's going to be a fight or a friendly encounter or not, or a flee. So kind of a neat tool that I use a lot, just to see how things go. I don't have a preconceived notion. And these lizard folk, there was a peaceful exchange. The player characters didn't attack them, because that's always a consideration. The player characters don't have to be friendly, but what is the disposition of the this encounter, right? The NPCs are in this case, I guess, monstrous NPCs. I don't know. Lizard folk are intelligent, and they're not generally evil, right? So they're not always aggressive unless you're in their territory. And this is just like oops, we ran into you in the jungle. So then they befriended this group, and this group kind of helped them explore. Unfortunately, one of the lizard folk was eaten or killed by the giant eel before one of the player characters stabbed it with their trident. But they got the eel, they got out of the water, and hey, we're gonna feast on eel. Except there was a complication, because I rolled on the random encounter chart in an Ixian coaster, or a coaster crewed by Ixians, so about 8 Marines, 16 oarsmen, and it looked like a cleric or priest on kind of leading this little coaster, and they decided to check out the beach and what was going on in the caravel. And the player characters hid, waited until they sort of got their camp going. They had 3 vermis, which are like large beast men type creatures, also in their service, or who knows, under control. Who knew? I don't know. We'll figure that out one of these days. But it didn't matter for the purposes of of the encounter. But then the player characters hid, and at the right moment for the player character's mind, they attacked, and it was a good fight. It was I thought it was going to be like I thought the player characters were going to get captured or killed, honestly, but some luck, a few good shots at the vermis. One they killed one right away before it got up to melee, and then under melee, one of the player's characters casted grease, and I could not make a saving throw to save my life. So there was fighting prone characters on these rocks. One actually fell. One actually adversary, not a vermis, but there were these Marines fell, or Ixian, soldiers, Marines, whatever I called them, Marines, fell, and almost died. And when they tried to climb up, he got tagged by another arrow. And then they had the lizard folk attack the camp, which was the cleric, another vermis, and the oarsmen. I thought the oarsmen were going to flee, but the cleric rallied them, and one of the lizard folk almost died, so they had to withdraw and didn't do much. But then by that time, the player characters had defeated the opposition that attacked them on the rocks and had climbed down, started shooting at the boat, were shooting at the people in the camp, and they killed the cleric. Then the vermis kind of went crazy. The oarsmen broke and started to try to get back to their boat. And eventually the player characters eliminated about half the oarsmen, climbed onto the boat, killed, defeated the other Marines that were left, and with some diplomacy and intimidation said, okay, oarsmen, you need to drive this boat back to Fort Thunder, or else. Well, I mean, I guess they didn't want to die, so they decided to follow the lead of two warlocks in the party, a cryomancer and a regular warlock, and one of them intimidated them quite well. Again, a reaction roll or morale check, actually, I did, and then got them to do what he wanted to do. So then they sailed back to Fort Thunder. Fortunately, this particular character also had the background as a shipwright, so kind of knew generally how ships worked. So they were able to get back to Fort Thunder without problem. And then we divided up the loot, which included a coaster that they sold to the Amazon. So pretty cool stuff for that Hyperborea, and that adds to the fiction. Then, as a follow-up, they're probably going to try to find out what these Ixians were doing, where they were going. There's rumors of an Ixian camp on the far side of the island. Why are the Ixians here? So there's those kind of questions to be answered, and then also count our loot and spend the monies to help the burgeoning economy of Fort Thunder. There's probably going to be some, like, a little village there on the lagoon area, and stuff like that, that's going to start forming near where the ships kind of park in the lagoon, and then take a ship's boat or wade over into to the beach and then up to Fort Thunder. But I'm sure I'll have to figure out another sort of small map for that area, because we have a map of Fort Thunder with its temples and adventurers quarter and stuff like that. So yeah, this place is going to grow. Should be pretty interesting. Be kind of fun to see how things shape for the next time we dive into Down and Out in Fort Thunder. So thank you for the call again, EOTB. Look forward to your next podcast of Classic Adventure Gaming, and to hearing you on the various podcasts give out your wisdom and advice on how to play these awesome old games, these retro clones like Hyperborea or others. So yeah, next up is Jason Connerly.
Hey, Carl. Really enjoyed your talking about Pendragon. Thank you for doing that. The 6th edition core book, quote unquote. What you said mirrors a lot of what I read online. Here's something somebody wrote online. Despite what it says on the cover, it's not a core rule book. There's loads of stuff that's missing. No battle rules, no character generation info beyond a single region, Salisbury. No hunting or feasting rules, no bestiary or info on NPCs. Nothing on manor management, etc. What you get is a lot of references to other books that don't exist yet. A GM book, Nobles book, Knights and Ladies book, and a campaign kit. There's also more spelling errors than I'm used to from a Chaosium product, which are usually very clean. It was originally slated to be a player's handbook, which would have been a more apt description. I guess this whole debacle could have been avoided if at least the GM book had been released alongside at the same time. Alas, from the info we have, that book will only come out next year sometime. So, if it really was supposed to be originally a player's handbook, they probably should have marketed it that way. I've got the entire run of 5.2, and yeah, 5.2 has a bunch of splat books like they're planning here, but I don't know. It seems like a cash grab to break everything up like that, honestly. Some other people talked about some changes that's in here. The passions, the passion courts, I guess maybe change up a little bit. And there's a chivalry passion now that kind of plays with the other passions. But, I own 5.2. I've never really played it. I know you have experience. So as you get into it more, I'm curious what you think of the changes of 6th edition. But I don't know that there's enough changes to justify buying the entire line again with a ton of splat books when I've already got that in 5.2. You know what I mean? So, and unlike you, I don't have a vested interest in keeping Chaosium afloat. I don't regularly buy their products, and honestly, it doesn't matter to me. So I'm not going to support them financially just out of goodwill if they're not putting out products that are worth buying. But it's exciting that you might be getting a Pendragon campaign up and going, and you're going to be able to play it again. That's very, very cool, and I look forward to hearing how that goes. So good luck on that, and I will talk to you soon.
Hey, Jason, thank you for that recap. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to get a full-on Pendragon campaign going, but I might do this solo thing. I have Aiden here, who is now Squire to King Arthur, and I won. I feel like I won the adventure of the Sword and the Stone. So, like, in 7 years, it says, knighted by King Arthur and go on to a great career, and you are among the first to receive personal invitation of the king to join the esteemed martial order, the Knights of the Round Table. But what I need to do next, though, so how do I get to those points? Well, they have like a Table 2 Story Awards in this book, and what I did is you get like +2 for each skill check, and I got 2 skill checks, and then for each passion check, I got my honor checks, that's +3, so that is a total of 7, and then for all my chivalrous traits checked, I checked generous, modest, and temperate. Generous, modest, and valorous. So I got 2 more each for those, so that's 13 points already. And then the other traits I got checked were temperate. So I got temperate checked, that's a +1, so that's 14. And then I didn't kill the boar. The nobleman did not get me a favor, or nor did I free the bull. But I did survive. I did survive 2 rounds without taking damage in the Bohort. That's +2 more, so that's 15. And then I did defeat an opponent 16. And then if you told Arthur about the Sword and Stone, that becomes 18. I did not try to retrieve the Sword and the Stone, but I defended Arthur against King Lot, so that is 19, and he made me his squire, so that is 24. And I think I got a check opposed to religious check or chivalrous trait. Oh no, I didn't. Yeah, I did 1 proud, so that is -1. But then I also got reckless, and there's no penalty for reckless. It's just it's actually a bonus. So I'm at 24 points, and I needed 18 to become a Knight of the Round Table. So I think what's next is I have to go through a winter phase with Aiden, and all those checks I get to see if they increased or not. And then he's 15, and then I go for 6 more years, probably either doing solos, or there's a way in the book that I think you start out, from what I remember correctly, let me check in the 6th edition, I'm thinking about earlier editions. Yes, it looks like as before, I would go through like a modified winter phase, starting, I'm age 14, go through the winter phase to 15, and then see if I qualify to become a knight through the 5 more years or so that I'm going to of winter phase. to when I'm 21. And then most Squires serve the knights until they're 21, and then they become knighted, and then I add the knightly things and the other things. So and I'll probably get a lot of starting glory, depending on who I'm knighted by. And I might actually go through the history and events starting in 510 and as a squire for Arthur, see what happens to me, and maybe he'll die during character creation because there's some big battles that take place during that time. So I think I'll probably study that out. Also, I probably might go to the Book of Sires book in 5.2 since he's from Pelin, I believe, raised in Pelin. So there's an area, sort of a southwestern Wales there, that I can kind of develop a family history for. And then we'll see how Aiden becomes a knight at 21. So I'll probably work on that and see how it goes. So yeah, so now I'm going to pause here and then talk very briefly about the other games that I ran this week, which was Traveler, or ongoing Traveler campaign that I call Behind the Claw, although it could become now Order of the Marches, and then briefly on our T2K game. All right, be right back. You know, I wish I could do what Jason or Jason do, Connerly and Hobbs, which is to kind of record while you drive, but I don't know. I don't think it works for me. Maybe if like when Amy's in the car and we have the satellite navigation in the background and we're driving and she's got the mic and I go, but I guess single driving here, especially right now, it's the odd bit of rain in June here in San Antonio. Usually it's drought and parched. But so I wanted to just conclude and talk very briefly about our ongoing Traveler and Twilight 2000 game, which both were able to meet. And Traveler was very interesting. If you recall correctly, they had found a suspect in their murder investigation aboard the King Richard. Now they're getting ready for an investiture, becoming knights, becoming honor knights, which bumps their social to 11 mechanically. And it's going to be a ceremony, and I'm trying to think how I'm going to do with the ceremony, and I've kind of pushed it off, truth be told, a little bit. And I was like, oh yeah, there's this one thing I wanted to do, and I remember, and the last session was kind of, in my opinion, dull. We just bought stuff. They kind of finally to a high-tech level world, and I guess the characters were jonesing about that or been wanting to do that for a long time, and they got to a high-tech level world, and I want to buy this, and I want to buy that. So it's kind of like a shopping session, which is dull in my opinion. And then this time, I wanted to get to the knighthood ceremony, but it didn't quite work because someone tried to kill the player characters. They did some stuff. I said, hey, what do you guys want to do? They want to try to follow up on things. They went to the lobby. They spotted a couple people who were watching them, and one guy comes up to them and says, hey, I heard that you're looking for a pilot. And they're like, huh? And then he proceeded, while one of the player characters, Dalmar, the investigator, went over to confront the person sitting in the corner watching them and maybe recording them. As it turned out, it was a detective for the PEL, the company that owns the King Richard, wanted to get some more information from them. But the other person was a psionic assassin and tried to burn Roddy McGinnis and Dr. Arvedon. And actually, Dr. Arvedon got taken down. Roddy was only saved because his armor has like energy protection on it. But Dr. Arvedon's not so much. So finally, Roddy was able to take him down, stun him. The detective helped. The NPC detective also helped and shot, and Dalmar rushed over there. And kudos to the player who plays Dalmar, rapidly thought and saw that the assassin was trying to, had like a suicide pill, but grabbed Dr. Arvedon's medkit and stabilized this assassin so that maybe they can question him later. And then, of course, now there's like psionics that have been used in public here on Gliston, and so quickly the detective from PEL tries to get some info from them before, the military are called, and these kind of dark blue suited military personnel come in and talk to the players, kind of tell them, don't go anywhere. We might have more questions, and thank you for capturing this person and what's going on. And so I don't know, maybe it's putting doubts in their minds about the investigation that showed that this General Sir Arthur Flintlock was the the murderer of Teresa Shrike, a powerful shipping magnate, or a CEO for a powerful shipping magnate that actually pulled off their ships that were kind of guard duty for the King Richard. So that's curious. So there's an open bid there. Yeah. So and then I guess one revelation did come up, that they had never tested General Sir Arthur Flintlock for psionic potential, and they have some sort of prototype psionic dampener, and they decided to keep it. So that's kind of funny. And then so that was that session. I wanted to get further, but hey, another delay so I can figure out what the hell's going to happen at the ball. But now I have a great idea for what's going to happen at the ball. They're going to be so I probably have like an itinerary when they go and get their investiture, which would be kind of neat. And then they'll be announced at the Emperor Strephon's birthday, so Strephon Day or something like that. And but they'll be knighted already, and then it'll be sent to capital, and whoa, they'll be on the rolls. So which is kind of neat. So then in Twilight 2000, the group is back in Krakow, and well, they had, when we last left them, Amy's character Kasha had let Yosef know that the general of the Ormo had wanted to kill him or have him killed. So Joseph stormed out, drew with his sword drawn. He has like this sword that is it's really like a museum piece. It's not that, but it's the sword of the kings of Krakow, basically. So he goes in there, storm, and then Kasha's like, some other people like run after Yosef as well. So Dimitri and Adam, his bodyguard, and some others run after members of the Warta, run after Yosef. They see him get into an argument. And then I had the players actually roll for attacks on this fight, and it's kind of almost a comedy of errors. They strike at each other. They miss. Eventually, the character's trying to push them and separate them, but Yosef manages to get in a good hit on the general and smacks and breaks his leg with the sword. He goes down, and then Kasha had wanted to have the general removed, but she saw an opportunity and stabilized him, got him to the medical facilities in the castle area, and now they're gonna maybe he owes her. So that's a good thing to have in this game, people owing you favors. So then she went to go talk to this guy called Goose, the boss, Goose Stanislav, who's the lead mob boss in Krakow and is into all sort of smuggling and illicit stuff and prostitution and drugs and all that kind of. He's not into it, but selling and handling of all that. So he's not a good dude. She meets his big sort of thug-like lieutenant Coco, and Amy just like proceeds to have Kasha make fun of him, and he's almost they try to poison her, but she makes her quote unquote poison saving throw, or realizes that there's stuff in the brandy that they offer her, so she's like, oh my gosh, amateurs. And then the guy tries to, I drew a card and it suggested violence, but it wasn't strong, like instantly acting, so the guy was contemplating violence on Kasha for goading him. But then Goose came in, they talk, Goose says, I want this. Amy's like, okay, well, we want this. And he says, well, if you do this for me so I can become the true leader of all trade in Krakow, then we're all good. So she's contemplating that, but I think she has other ideas now, because Goose has like you're the measure of your employees is kind of a measure of your morality in a way. So she didn't like the way Coco acted. And then, of course, when she tells Ren and Volkov and Rupert and the rest are like, oh, this guy's got to go. So I don't know if that means Goose and Coco or just Coco, but whatever, we'll see. So the other thing, Rupert had a mission. They had sort of spoofed the remnants of the KGB in Krakow. So while they had taken off before they left up the Vistula, Malakov's main group, there was another group operating out of Lublin. And the person had approached Jonesy, and Jonesy thought it was kind of odd, but didn't really think of anything of it at the time. But now they caught him by breaking up this marauder group at the airport that they're going to be investing outside of Krakow. So then Rupert arranged a meeting. They met him. They met him. They saw who it was. They recognized who it was, like, oh, opportunity. So then Ren sniped him with a crossbow. Bronson and Hicks were in place with a technical, had a KPV, and unloaded on some gang members that were there as part of a protection racket for him. And then yeah, they took out another bodyguard or something like that, and grabbed the body, threw him in the back of the truck, and took off. Kasha, Volkov, and Ren going back into the city because they can get through the checkpoint no problem. They're well known. The others are going to go, Rupert, Ronson, and Hicks are going to drive the bodies and grab these guys. I think, anyone survive? I think one survived. So the bodyguard of this KGB guy who's dead, rolled a hit to the gut and then a 9 on the crit. So he's dead. Died in one round. And so they've taken this other guy, going to interrogate him out there and meet the Russian 10th that are coming to join Volkov and those men at the airport. So it is a good session. We'll see how things go. I know we want to take a break when we come to a point where we can do like the quote unquote winter phase that I mentioned earlier, but do a time jump. There might be, I don't know if there's going to be a winter war between Cilicia and Krakow. Some incidents or two have happened. But the interesting thing, and this is on purpose from the authors of the original books, Florian Filipowicz is the brother of Julian Filipowicz. So Florian Filipowicz Ren, who was the ghost of Czestochowa, is intentionally written as the brother of Julian Filipowicz, the ruler of Cilicia. So it should be interesting. I think we're going to play on that and see how things go, if they can come to an agreement, or if there's going to be a small winter war between Krakow and Cilicia. Anyway, well, that's Twilight 2000 and Traveler before that, and I think I'll close things there. Thank you so much for listening. This has been The Geomologist Presents. The intro and outro music are by TJ Drennan. My wife Amy does the cover clip art. You can contact me at geomologist@gmail.com. You can drop me a line via SpeakPipe, which is in the show notes, and you can drop me a line, a virtual message, a direct message, either voice or typed out on the Discord. I am there in various Discord channels. So thank you so much for listening. A good night and good rolling.